If you start from a false premise, don't be surprised when you reach a false conclusion. What if Plato was wrong? What do you mean? Well, the story is about how the people in shackles look at the shadows on the wall, and then some of them get out into the light. Then they try to come back, and the people refuse to leave the shadows. What if the light was ultimate world, and the people who went out got caught up in it? What if the people who stayed and looked at the walls made the best choice, and never see reality? That suggests that outside that particular cave was a reality worth seeing. Sight isn't everything. No, but a sunny day. Who can resist a sunny day? Perhaps learning to accept the dark is a better choice. She shuddered. I don't think I'll ever accept the dark. You do it every time you shut your eyes. Yeah, but that's my dark, not the external darkness. It's my choice, and I can always open my eyes. But you can't control what you see when you open them. That's true. They sat for a while. What if it's just the wrong cave? Meaning? There are many different caves. So can you take me to the best of all possible caves? Of course I can. What is the relationship between actions and consequences? Watching the waves collapse on the beach, it's a metaphor. But what really is a metaphor? What is equivalence? You have to leave metaphor and mathematics behind, or aside, or apart. We will go into many caves where philosophers meet, where bears sleep, and we will stare at the wall until the writing becomes clear. Sometimes you see most clearly with your eyes closed. And when your eyes are open, sometimes you don't see at all. It was a beautiful view. It was. From that room. I know that room too. We shared it. Over time. It was the best and worst of times. Somewhere between good and yellow I thought I understood. As they spoke about game theory, my mind wandered. I didn't realise that if you learned game theory and played the game and gamed the system, you won in the system. The system only rewards the players who play according to the rules. It's a fact in the factual world which claims to be reality. I think we shared the same cave for a while, a cave where light and darkness were less important than truth and lies. Between belief and knowledge, between you and me, or you and I. I feel that the logical analytical philosophers are in the dark, dank cave. They throw light around in an attempt to reduce the fear, but I did not need their light. Light comes from within, not from rules. Their rules and reasons and logic lead to hierarchy and to brand loyalty, and that leads to the ultimate world. They were as much a part of ultimate as the paradox of the glass bead game. There they were, playing that game every Tuesday at 11 a.m, thinking they were changing the nature of the world, thinking they were explaining and understanding, but really they were ruling the world by creating themselves in their own image. Gods of philosophy. The cult of analytic philosophy worships at the altar of logic and laughs in the face of those who take their metaphysics in a different direction, who find truth in paradox, and whose points of reference are simply points. Mostly they were clever young men, and one of them was a particularly clever young man. He had the temerity to take on the masters, and he spoke their language. But it was only the words of a clever young man, who wanted to be accepted by challenging the status quo from within, by adding his light to the sum of their light, by being in their cave. He knew he was not the biggest bear in the cave, not yet. In time he would game the system, and rise in the system. But no one beats the system. They all love Big Brother in the end. Looking from another perspective, I understand that in the hierarchy of the philosopher's cave, the biggest bears win. And I was Goldilocks. I was a quantum being in a world of analytical logic. They failed to teach me the self-referential aspect of failure. They tried repeatedly, and when we failed, they shut me out. I was not welcome in that cave. It was not my cave. I learned that. People who were in that room, and people who had never been in that room, but were still in that room because we put them there, they are all the philosophers of the analytic cave. They dance on the heads of pins and think that makes them angels. It does not. It makes them people who dance on the heads of pins. Dancing on the heads of pins is as pointless an endeavour as naming the Higgs boson, which leads, strangely enough, to finding the Higgs boson, and that is the pattern of rational, reasonable science in the ultimate world. Some came to tell us that. I think Derek tried to tell me. I was so lost in the light I couldn't see his words or his thoughts. I could see that he scared them. Perhaps that was his appeal to me. His wave rolled from east to west. My wave takes me from west to east. Perhaps that's inevitable. Your wave must collapse in a direction away from where it began, if it can be said to begin. He still scares them. Not wanted, dead or alive. That much I understand. Though he's scared them so much they have to let him into their cave. Sometimes they hold their enemies close, sometimes not. It was different for me. I was not a clever young man. I was not a philosopher who could sit in an analytic cave and criticize. I was beyond that. My face did not fit. My identity did not fit. My direction of travel was so much wave interference. How could I not believe in numbers? How could I not believe in money? How could I not believe in hierarchy? How could I not believe? I wanted to sing with Peter in his cave. I did not know about caves. I thought we had left Plato in his cave and were chasing waves, not putting labels on boxes. They pushed me out of their cave. From a different place, now I see it simply, no regret or recrimination, no darkness, only light. I was always in my own cave, and they are in their cave, telling their stories. My story does not fit with theirs. Until I inhabit a story, it's not mine. I'm not interested in the naming of things, being, not naming. I had no need for naming of necessity. I was beyond the possibility of altruism even then. Some enlightened people, at one point, gave 10% of what they had. They called it effective altruism. I called it the identity of tithing. In the caves of identity, through economics, I gave and I give 100% of what I am. Not every cave dweller welcomes that way of being.